Hey everyone, it's Scott Hansen from NFL Red Zone reminding you to watch Sportsballers, the podcast that gets you caught up on everything Washington sports and beyond.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Sportsballers podcast. My name is Eric. I'm joined by Corey and Evan as always. It's been a beautiful day here in gorgeous Prince George's. The downside is the allergies are starting to make a comeback, so I apologize in advance if there's any sneezing or stuffiness going on. I'll do my best to mute accordingly. But how are you guys doing?
I'm good. You're right. It's last 2 or 3 days have been really nice here. Been actually able to get outside for at least a little bit of a little bit of enjoying the sunlight and the moderate weather.
Yeah, it's supposed to stay good for another couple days. Then it's going to be cold again soon enough. So enjoy it while it lasts. We're not going to be into consistent good weather in Maryland until probably June.
What is consistent weather? I've never heard of this. I'm a Marylander.
That's true. Fair enough. How you doing, Evan? Evan? Is Evan there?
Evan is muted.
Evan is muted.
I've done this before. Yeah. This is only the 133rd episode or whatever.
134th.
Yeah. Whatever number it is. We've been at this a while. Yeah, I'm doing fine, aside from, muting myself. It's hot and whatever.
Yeah, it's been known to happen. It's not the worst thing in the world. It happens every day at work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every day the same lady always, forgets to turn her mute off before she talks, and it's just like, it'd be different if this was like spread out, but it's always the same person. It's just like that's kind of sad now. We've been at this long enough, for a year now, being stuck at home doing work at home. So people should be used to that, but. We got a lot going on in the show today. Quite a few things to get through. I got some big news coming out of Jerry World regarding Dak Prescott's new deal. We'll discuss the firing of Les Miles as well and get some latest info from spring training, talking about the Orioles and the Yankees at length. And if there's anything else we feel like talking about, we'll bring it up. But as is tradition, when I'm hosting, we're going to start with the Association of National Basketball.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed. So I've decided I'm not going to do a full State of the League situation here because for the last week we haven't had real games. It's been the All-Star break, so the last time we had competitive basketball was last Thursday, so it seemed like it kind of defeats the purpose to try to reach back into stuff that happened over a week ago and only covered 2 weeks worth of information. Nothing really changed that much. We'll get a more full-length discussion of the NBA when I host next time, which will be just after the trade deadline. Which will probably provide a lot of good nuggets to discuss about new things happening. But for now, I'm going to focus on the All-Star Game, what happened this weekend. It was interesting because the All-Star Game was supposed to be played in Indianapolis this year, but because of reasons, namely COVID-19, the game got moved to Atlanta, which is why the players were wearing uniforms that looked like Pacer uniforms, even though they were playing in the Hawks building. But hey, what can you do? So the event only took place on Sunday. They decided not to have the full weekend for obvious reasons. You prefer not to have players going in and out and then partying in downtown Atlanta, where, as Evan knows, they're wreaking havoc down there because they just don't care.
Well, it's literally walking distance from the strip club where the guy went to get the chicken wings back
from Magic City.
Yeah.
Magic City, yeah, Lemon Pepper Lou, yeah. He was not a participant in this weekend's festivities. So we'll start with the skills competition. People who are familiar know this involves dribbling, passing, and shooting. So it was interesting because there were like 3 big men that participated in this event this year, and the 2 finalists were both centers. So obviously the winner was a center. They beat out prominent point guards like Luka Doncic and Chris Paul. So it kind of goes to show you that the league has changed. I could not have imagined watching the All-Star game back in like 2006 when I first really started watching NBA All-Star Weekend with some type of, interest. Imagine watching 7-footers winning the skills competition, but we are where we are. Domantas Sabonis beat out Nikola Vucevic for the crown for the skills competition. He buried a three as they were both kind of bricking threes towards the end. It was like, who's going to make one first? And Sabonis ended up knocking one down. It was funny because Sabonis, the first 2 rounds that he ran, he knocked down the three the first shot. But last one, I guess he got a little nervous or just didn't have his rhythm and took a little while to knock it in. But eventually he got it done and he was crowned champ. So congrats to him. Then we had the 3-point shooting competition. No surprise to many people, Stephen Curry won it for the second time. He won it on the last ball of the night. It was a money ball that he took. He was down 26-27. The money ball was worth 2, and he buried it for the win. His first round, he shot a 31, which was a record. The max score you can have is 40. And it was interesting because this is the first time that Curry's participated when they've added the 2 extra shots where they've got 2 points where you can take 1 shot from just inside 30 feet, which is obviously long ball range that Curry likes to live. So he took advantage of that. He hit 3 out of the 4 shots from that range. So that boosted his score quite a bit. But, it was showmanship as usual. All 6 participants in the 3-point shooting contest were all-stars. So big name guys, high-level talents. It wasn't, just some scrub coming in there and jacking up a bunch of threes for 45 minutes. It was actually the best of the best. So that was good to see.
Is that not always the case for the 3-point shootout?
Lately it has been, but for a while they used to bring in like just professional marksmen like Kyle Korver and Jason Capono, guys that average maybe 8 points.
So guys who are good at 3-point shots, but that's basically like that's the extent of their skills on the court.
That's what they do. They don't play any defense or score in any other ways.
They're
just out there to catch and shoot. Whereas lately they've been incorporating, I think when they really started rolling it with just all-stars was when Kobe Bryant participated a long time ago. But I remember thinking, Kobe can make threes, but he's not what you would call a sniper from 3. So I was surprised that he was in it, but he's Kobe, so he's allowed to do whatever he wants. So they've kind of been focused, and especially with the NBA being so 3-point heavy now, in order to be a star, you almost have to be able to shoot the 3. And guys like Kyle Korver and JJ Redick, who used to be off the bench guys, are prominent starters now. So that's kind of more of an emphasis anyway. So you're more likely to see the best players in the league also be the best shooters in the league. So moving on to the dunk contest, which was a snoozer, boring. The problem with the dunk contest to me is that it's no longer about stars doing it. Like none of these guys that did it were anybody that anybody's ever even heard of.
Like I'm looking at this name and I've never heard it or seen it before. Like I don't know, is it Anthony? I'm assuming.
Yeah, Anthony Simons. He won the event, and he was probably the most prominent player because he plays 17 minutes a game off the bench for Portland. And I must make it known that Portland is missing one of their starting guards, and Anthony Simons is still coming off the bench. So he's not even the 3rd best guard on the Portland Trailblazers, and he was your All-Star game winner. And it's not to knock him; he's a good enough player. But when you watch the All-Star game, like the guy everybody wants to see do the All-Star game is Zion Williamson. And Zion was there this weekend. He was an All-Star, but he did not participate. None of the 3 competitors were All-Stars.
What was that like his own choice, or was he not invited for the dunk contest?
I think it's just the players aren't into it. Like you don't see the stars do it. They usually say no. Like LeBron James never did the dunk contest his entire career. Never ever
did it like once.
Nope, never. Never did it.
Oh.
Yeah, Kobe Bryant did when he was young, and back in the day, it used to be a star-driven thing. But there just isn't enough buzz to get people to glue to their TV sets to watch Anthony Simons almost kiss the rim. I mean, that was the winning dunk. Was he tried to get his face close to the rim and then made a business decision because he didn't want to knock his teeth out on the rim, and so that was how he won. Okay.
To be fair though, like I feel like the dunk contest, at least for me, my lack of interest in that event isn't necessarily so much who is participating, because even if LeBron James were to participate, even if Zion Williamson were to participate, and obviously this is going to sound like, well, no, duh, Corey's not really that into the NBA anyway, but I really wouldn't be that fascinated. Like, if somebody said, like, hey, like, this was actually a brand new dunk that nobody's ever seen anything like it before, yeah, I'd catch it on Twitter afterwards, but the odds of that happening are so low that what's really the point of watching it live? Like, everybody has tried everything. There's only so much you can do now that has never been tried before.
Yeah, that's true. It's not like the other competitions. Like the 3-point contest is always the same every year. And you can watch people just bury 3 after 3 and just be amazed by their talent. But everybody in the NBA can dunk. So you've got to make the dunk special, which obviously makes it harder to do because you have to keep topping yourself and things like that. But
plus, it's so subjective. Like, I've seen dunks on there that I'm like, oh, that's a 50, and somebody's giving them like a 40. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, the judging process is obviously an issue as well.
Like, at least with the 3-point contest, yeah, you've seen it all the time, but it's like the home run derby. You see it all the time, but there's an objective winner based on the number of threes you make. There's an objective winner based on the number of home runs you hit, and that's where the competition is.
Right, but the reason why I think having the stars there matters is because the stars are inherently going to be better at dunking because stars are better athletes. So, like, there's an intrigue. Even if you think you've seen everything that somebody can do, Zion Williamson is talented enough to bring his own flair to the dunk contest. Like, there are different things you can try. And, the dunk contest that I remember most recently being really good was the first one that Zach LaVine won, where everybody was declaring the dunk contest dead because, like you said, Corey, it seemed like everything had already been done, and so people were just really gimmicking it up in order to try to make it cool, and it was just kind of lame. But there's a certain display of athleticism that even if it's something that's sort of been done before, you could still marvel at it if it's done so well.
Sure.
And that's where you sort of need the star power to come in, because I'm just thinking about all the really cool dunks that I've seen from dunk contest contestants. There were always guys that were either all-stars or guys that soon became all-stars, like Andre Iguodala, like Zach LaVine, who was an all-star this weekend for the first time. He won the dunk contest 3 or 4 years ago, but you knew he was going to be good, whereas Cassius Stanley plays 2 minutes a game.
I have no idea who that is.
Exactly. Like, he plays 2 minutes a game. He's only appeared in 8 games this year.
What team is he on?
He's on the Pacers. Yeah, exactly. Like, these, and Obi Toppin's
was
probably
a college player.
Obi Toppin's probably the only guy you've heard of, and that's because of what he did in college last year, but he hasn't played much for the Knicks, so there just isn't really a whole lot of juice to this product right now. And I think a big part of it is the best players that could make it interesting just aren't interested in doing it anymore, which is a shame, but it is what it is. So as for the game itself, the NBA dunk contest was actually at halftime of the All-Star game this time, which was interesting. Never seen that before.
Cool.
Well, I mean, if you're not going to have the actual All-Stars participate in it, you may as well.
Yeah, and another thing is that it kind of made it okay that it was kind of boring because you had something coming up right after that, the second half of the All-Star game, which is what people wanted to see, whereas normally the dunk contest is the marquee event on Saturday night, and then if people aren't interested in that, they're just not going to tune in at all. Because people want to see the awesome dunk contest, but if they think it's going to suck, they're not going to bother watching any of it. Whereas here, it's like, well, they want to see the All-Star game, so they're going to have to sit through this too. So that's kind of part of the deal. But the game was fun. It was a blowout. Team LeBron won every quarter. So Team KD was pulling Scott's tots with the charity there, not actually forking over any money because they didn't win any money. Yes. I guess Evan has not seen that episode of The Office.
I haven't seen any episodes of The Office.
Okay, well, there's an episode of The Office where Michael Scott promised these young children
that he would pay for their college tuition if they graduated high school, and they all did. But by that time, he wasn't a millionaire like he thought he would be, and so he couldn't afford to pay their tuition.
So they had a whole big event for him where they were doing dance breakdowns and stuff like that and wearing T-shirts to say Scott's tots on them, thinking this guy's going to come make their dreams come true. And he has to go there and tell all these kids that that he can't pay for their college, and it's probably the most awkward episode of The Office.
It is widely regarded as one of the most cringiest episodes of any show ever.
Yeah, like most
Is that
people.
what makes it funny? Like, is it funny cringy or just cringy?
It's pretty much just cringy to me.
It depends on how much cringe you can handle. Like if you enjoy it, like my dad does, he ate that episode up. I hate that episode.
I can't stand it.
Like I get why it's funny, but man, it's brutal.
I appreciate the scene at the end when he actually does like write checks for the kid to pay for his books.
Yeah, he gave him like $1,000
per year. Yeah, he gave him like 4 checks each for $1,000. Like I appreciate that, but the rest of the episode was just like, it was so cringy. I can't watch it every time I go through and binge The Office.
Yeah, even the B plot in that episode was really unfortunate with Jim doing whatever he was doing. Yeah. It was terrible.
Anyway.
So but Giannis Antetokounmpo was named Finals MVP. All-Star Game MVP. Certainly not.
Wow,
MVP.
Man, they're really counting their eggs before they're
counting
their chickens before they hatch.
Yeah, let's just forget that was ever said. But it was funny because last week.
Forget it actually.
Yeah, write it down. Make it put it in history right there.
What was the exact wording?
I don't know. We'll have to run it back and find out. It was so awkward and unfortunate, but I can't wait to find out. But anyway, Giannis won All-Star Game MVP. He was talking some mad smack when he found out the teams that were selected while he was housing a ton of fried chicken during the press conference, which was just made it even funnier. But he was predicting that it was over, and he was right. Team LeBron won every quarter. It was a 20-point victory. Even the conclusive quarter where they played to 24 plus the winning team's score basically at the third quarter mark, that was not exciting at all because one team was so far ahead. But, Giannis won the MVP award. Frankly, for an all-star game, to me, the MVP is the guy that is the most exciting. And for me, that's 1A and 1B. Steph and Dame and Steph, pick one. Because these dudes were out there just launching bombs from half court and making them. It was insane to watch. They all got to do little alley-oops, too, to remind them that the little guys can dunk, too. First, Dame caught an alley-oop, then Steph caught one, and then Chris Paul caught one. And Chris Paul's about 6'0". He's like 35 years old. Yeah. And he still got up and put it down, so good for him. And Damian Lillard ended the game he hit a 3 to push the score to 167 and then pulled up from about 43 feet to bury the decisive shot to end the game. So it was exciting to watch those two guys, especially being on the same team, because there's so much conversation about, who's the better player and who's the better shooter and is there some type of rivalry? And they're like, we're just going to go out here and have fun and just, shoot 40-foot jump shots and make them and just be awesome. So that was a lot of fun to watch. But that was pretty much it from the All-Star game. Team LeBron won, but LeBron barely played. He played 13 minutes. He didn't even play the second half. He just said, I'm old, so I'm going to let everybody else play. He's also nursing a little bit of a sore ankle from when he rolled it in a game last week. So probably wanted to limit his minutes, but it was a really fun affair. And I think people kind of miss the point of the All-Star game sometimes when they complain, well, there's no defense happening. I'm like, this is supposed to be fun. Like, we're watching your favorite players go out there and enjoy hanging out together for a few hours while they play, a pickup game of basketball. It's fun. Like, don't try to make it something that it's not. But I thoroughly enjoyed the game. I think that some people talked about this. Like, there's always takes from the All-Star game. What does this mean? And it means nothing, of course. It's an All-Star game. But, you had people saying, like, oh, wow, I think people need to appreciate Steph more. I'm like, I actually felt like people came into this fully appreciating Steph because it's easy to appreciate him now that he's not taking everybody's lunch. For 5 years, the Warriors were unbeatable, and now they're just like any other team. So people aren't going to hate as much. They're just going to appreciate the talent that we see. Same thing with LeBron, same thing with Damian Lillard. We see it with every player. When they're kicking everybody's ass for so long, there's going to be resentment. But eventually you come around and you realize that guy is pretty good. So that's kind of what All-Star Weekend's all about to me. So I'm glad that we got to see some of that happen. So moving on to some actual basketball news that affects the day-to-day. We'll start with Blake Griffin. He was bought out by the Detroit Pistons, which was expected. Blake was averaging about 12 points per game, having a terrible season. But he was bought out, and the Nets picked him up. So there have been a lot of questions about whether Blake Griffin can contribute to the Nets. And I think people conflate that with the question of, is Blake Griffin washed? The answer to that is absolutely. The question of, can he contribute to the Nets? Maybe. I don't know. Like, just because
he couldn't contribute to the Pistons.
I understand that.
It seemed like if he was good, he would be, the guy. And he's irrelevant.
I'm inclined to agree with you, Evan, but I also watched James Harden look like absolute crap for 2 weeks and then, just turn into Superman as soon as he goes to the Nets. So there's a certain motivational factor there as well.
He ate Superman before.
Yeah, understood, but he shed Superman pretty quickly, so I don't know what to tell you. But, in a different role, it's possible, I will say, that Blake Griffin could be a contributor off the bench. I don't think it's likely because he doesn't really offer anything that the Nets need. He doesn't provide any athleticism because he hasn't dunked a basketball in 2 years. Yeah, Blake Griffin, the guy that used to dunk the ball 200 times a season, hasn't had a dunk in games. Yes. Yes, hasn't dunked in a game since 2019. So make of that what you will. That tells me he's just out there, and
he's on vacation.
Yeah, it's a stunning.
He's got that Gorilla Glue on his sneakers.
Yeah, it's been an impressive decline in his athleticism. I know he can shoot a little bit, although he's been terrible at that this year. I know that he's, a veteran. He's been around the block. He hasn't done anything well, though. He's just a guy who sucks now. Like, that's what he looks like. And, again, he could just suddenly emerge as a decent player again, but I'd be surprised.
That's not a thing.
It's not, but, maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
You're saying, you're making it sound like Chris Davis is going to hit 65 home runs this season, right? Like, he's played like crap for years and years and years, and then suddenly he's great. Like,
that's obviously not going to happen. No, it does not.
Same with Blake Griffin.
Yeah, but basketball is a little more team-oriented than baseball. Baseball is, you go up to hit. If you can hit, you can hit. If you can't, you can't. But if you're being asked to do everything on a crappy team and you suck now, it's a little harder. But if you're being asked to do minimal things to kind of, just fill in some of the gaps, maybe he can pull it off. But I'd be surprised. I'd be very surprised at this point because I just don't see, like, you can look at the stats. The stats don't matter. It's what shows up on film. What do his skills say about him? What has he displayed the last year and a half? And what he's displayed is a broken player. So I'm not sold on this at all. So let's get to some more annoying and unfortunate news. Meyers Leonard got himself in hot water for being an idiot and a bigot on Call of Duty, which for most of us, we've heard plenty of because we play Call of Duty, but you sure as hell wouldn't expect a grown-ass man, especially one of high profile and who's on a live stream,
that he himself set up.
Yeah, to be using racial slurs or anti-Semitic slurs while being broadcast to the entire country, entire world. But we are where we are. So Meyers Leonard is in deep doo-doo with the Miami Heat at this point.
Yeah,
so,
he paused. I saw the video. He paused for a full second before blurting out the K word. Well, that was.
Yeah, he was definitely cycling through his bigoted slurs before he landed on one that I guess he thought was okay.
It seemed like it. It's possible that the pause came from him like focusing on the gameplay before actually saying it. But regardless, like he had a second to like change his mind about using that word, and he went ahead with it anyway.
I don't really have much to add here. This is a stupid decision and a bad thing that he did, and I do think that, because like I said, I did respect his stance on the national anthem when he was in the bubble with the Heat last year. I thought that he made a very eloquent statement regarding it, how he respected his teammates' decision to kneel, and he explained why he himself wouldn't. I thought that was totally above board, but when you throw this on top of that, it kind of makes that stance seem a little bit less, it seemed a little disingenuous with the way this all connects. typically somebody that refuses to kneel, I wouldn't have a problem with, but he made such a point to not do it, which again, based off of his explanation at the time, I was totally cool with. I was like, if you have a right to kneel, you have a right to stand. It does not matter to me what you do. But now you see this, and it's like, oh, so you're just another racist.
Yeah, how did he actually respect his teammates' decision to kneel, or was he just saying that to save face, to save his own reputation, or whatever? Like, it does definitely bring some of that into question. I know you guys are. I think Eric, at least Evan, may have seen this as well. The Patriots wide receiver, Julian Edelman.
I did see that.
He posted an open letter to Meyers Leonard, I think today, maybe it was yesterday. I think it was today, though. And it was interesting because as I was reading it, the first few sentences, I was kind of scratching my head because it felt very much like he was offering Leonard excuses to use for himself. You know, I didn't intend to be hurtful. I didn't say this because I'm a racist or whatever. But I appreciated what Edelman said in the latter part of his statement about why, even if this was an innocent slip of the tongue, he didn't know what it means, which if you're a grown-ass man, you know, that's pretty pathetic if you're using words that you don't know what they mean. It's like, that's not a good excuse at all. But even if it was, I thought that Edelman did a good job of explaining why that is still so problematic, why that's so destructive, why that's so damaging, and maybe even more so than when people say words like that with the express purpose of causing harm. I thought that Edelman did a really good job of explaining that when that happens, people usually are pretty quick to strike that down, to say, like, that's not cool, that's not right. But when it's said and there's that, you know, excuse of, oh, I didn't know what it meant, or, oh, I didn't mean to hurt you, it wasn't, you know, there was no malintent there, that can in some ways be even worse because it's a lot harder to express dissent against that and to explain why that's not right.
I mean, I think it just boils down to you just don't say ignorant stuff while broadcasting live online.
And if you can't refrain from doing it only when you're broadcasting live online, maybe just don't do it at all.
Yeah,
that'd be a good start.
I did enjoy the Twitter comment I saw yesterday that suggested that the Heat put Meyers Leonard on the Papa John's 20-month plan.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Racial slurs from your vocabulary in 2 years. That's how long it's gonna take.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I appreciated Edelman's open letter just because, you know, to me, I'm not a Jewish person. Nobody here is Jewish. I know Corey's got some lineage with that, but certainly not practicing. But you know, Edelman is Jewish, and so I'm not going to tell a Jewish person how they should react to something. Just like I wouldn't tell any black person how to handle somebody using the N-word or anything like that. It's not my place to handle that. It's not my word. It's not my issue. It's something that I will let other people who are affected by this the most handle this, and I will fall in line behind them because those are the people that I defer to because they're the authority on how to handle being appropriately treated by their peers.
I actually did not know that Julian Edelman was Jewish until after I saw it and like read it and was thinking about it and went and looked that up. Until then, I had no idea that he was Jewish.
Yeah, I had heard before that he was. Obviously, it never really came up because he's just a football player, right? You know, it's not something that you typically think about. But, you know, in this case, I'm glad that he did what he did. And, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say that the Heat should cut Meyers Leonard. But if they do, they do. It's up to them. So,
if nothing else, they definitely need to address it in some way. I mean, you're playing for a basketball team that's owned by a Jewish man.
Yeah.
That's not a good look.
You don't want to use a slur against the guy who signs the checks. It's usually
Yeah,
that doesn't
you
sound like
you
a
just
Steve.
bought a multi-million-dollar house in the Miami area. You clearly, would like to play there long term.
That was a questionable decision, in my opinion. Like, even before this, Meyers Leonard is a role player. He's a bench guy. He's disposable. Why would he assume
Guess
that
whose house is on the market now? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Better get the appraiser out there and get that figured out. But
he just got it appraised if he just bought it.
yeah, well, bring him back out and see if it's appreciated in value for being owned by a bigot, you know. But that's all I got to say about that. Do you guys have any other thoughts about this?
Nah.
No, just don't say ignorant stuff, right?
Feels like that goes without saying, but this type of thing keeps happening, so maybe they'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah.
So that'll do it for our NBA discussion this week. Like I said, I'll have another report after the trade deadline. We'll keep you updated as things happen. Until then, as news breaks. But we'll move to baseball now. Opening day is just 3 weeks from tomorrow, I believe.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I need to do some studying for the fantasy baseball draft.
yeah. What day is
I need
that?
to study when it is. Yeah.
I honestly don't. I run the league and I don't remember off the top of my head because
That's not good. That's
it's
not
not
a good
fantasy
start.
football. But I'll figure it out. I think Drew still needs to pick a team name.
Yeah, it's been 3 months.
Oh no,
Anyway.
he finally did pick a name. So there you go.
Okay. So Corey's got some updates for his Yankees, who are seemingly struggling a little bit. What's going on over there with your boys, Corey?
Yeah, so we've won one game since our last show. Last Thursday we got walloped by the Philadelphia Phillies 15-0. I got a little confused. I thought we were back in football season or something for a minute there.
Eagles Giants. Smoked them.
So that was pretty bad. We did end up beating them in the rematch on Sunday 4-0. So not didn't quite get full revenge, but we shut them out. But no other wins to speak of since last week. Zach Britton is going to be out for at least the next month. It looks like he's got to have an arthroscopic surgery to remove a bone chip in his left elbow, which you guys know he's a lefty. So, but for our audience who maybe isn't aware, that is his throwing arm. So,
Could we check on Sasquatch's Zach Britton bobblehead, please?
Yeah, maybe he nicked him.
Right? Does it have a chunk of the left elbow missing?
He clipped him on a corner wall as he was walking up the stairs, and now his arm's falling off. So it's probably his fault.
So he's got to have surgery on that. So he's going to miss some time. But we, there is some good news out of camp. Austin Wells is a catcher within the Yankees organization. He was a draft pick in 2020, and I think he's ranked as like our number 6 prospect in our farm system. But he's having a pretty good camp so far. He's looking good offensively. Got a really good swing on him. The one thing I'm not sure about is how good he is defensively. He's been working with the same coach that uses a technique that mirrors Gary Sanchez's like one knee down technique, which if he's defending the same way Gary Sanchez is, that doesn't make me feel very good about his chances of being a good defender, because Gary Sanchez as a catcher, like defensively, no thank you. I want him gone. Every time I see him catch, I'm seeing pass balls and everything. So, but hopefully he ends up being a decent defensive player, because if he can be a guy who maybe ultimately replaces Sanchez, that would be really nice. And then today, Yankees are playing against Pittsburgh. I think that game is, just actually getting started. And Domingo Germán is making his debut for spring training. He's, already set down 2 batters in the first inning. So, we already talked a little bit about Germán 2 weeks ago, and I'm not very thrilled to see him back in the pinstripes, but it is what it is. He's a Yankee right now and got to deal with that. And, hopefully he plays well, and more importantly, hopefully he behaves and, cuts all this nonsense out.
How's Aaron Boone doing?
Last I heard, he was out of surgery pretty quickly and is recovering. I'm not sure. I haven't heard any updates in the last day or two, so I don't know if there's been much more to speak of on that front. But yeah, I mean, definitely, hopefully he recovers quickly and is able to get back, because I know he misses being out there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Anything else?
I think that's about it on the Yankees front. Not much more to report right now.
All right. So that gives us plenty of leeway to gripe about the Orioles. So, I'll leave the floor to Evan for that one, because he's the one that pumped our show notes full of Orioles grievances. So
yes, we'll start with the first grievance. Today's game was not on TV or radio anywhere.
I saw Corey Fronten complaining about that on Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, if the Orioles play a spring training game but nobody broadcasts it, did it even happen? We don't know. We have no idea.
There is an official score, so that would suggest that it happened. Okay. Maybe it was made up. Maybe it was made up. I mean, it would make sense to make up an Orioles win.
It's like how Wilt Chamberlain is holding the piece of paper that says 100 on it, because nobody actually saw it happen on TV.
There was no such thing as TV back then.
Yeah, there was. It just wasn't on that TV. There was TV back then.
I guess there was a TV back then.
There were newsreels.
Okay.
People were out there recording
today's
things.
Game wasn't broadcast anywhere for some reason. I don't know why. But the Orioles, I believe, caved finally, and were like, "Yeah, we'll broadcast some spring training games en masse, and at some point, I think they picked like 4 of them." So this is frustrating, because I mean, how does it make sense to have less content? This is stupid.
Just
what else?
At least put it on radio. How it doesn't take that big of a crew to put together a radio broadcast.
Or don't even do that. Just stick a camera behind home plate and broadcast it live on your Twitter feed.
Right?
Yeah. Y'all have cameras. We have screens. They're connected by the internet. That's all you need.
Yeah, I don't understand
Stuff's not hard.
Like, you watch Masson, and the only thing that's on there when they're not showing baseball games is like reruns of World Series of Poker or ESPN News or some crap like that.
Only
like
fishing on there too.
Yeah, its entire purpose is to broadcast local baseball games. So it's really bizarre to me that they just decided, hey, we're not going to do this thing that we exist to do. I don't get how that works. So
yeah. Also, I mean, they say they lost a bunch of money last year. Well, then put some stuff on the network to make the money back. But no, we'll just we'd rather show fishing and
see, because if you show games, then you can also sell advertisements and make money that way.
Yeah, that's how the whole thing works.
Wow, this whole thing almost like it's been around for 85 years.
Yeah, I know these ideas that I'm just spitballing out here off the top of my head are completely revolutionary and novel to them, but maybe just consider it. Think about it. It might work.
Right. Yeah. This is absurd. Let's see. The Orioles announced they're gonna say what their plans are for their game day health and safety protocols. I guess that's going to happen at some point soon. The governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan, announced this week that stadiums will be allowed to have 50% capacity in the state of Maryland. But now the Orioles need to decide what they're going to do. So it looks like there will be fans at the Orioles home opener on April 8th. Let's see. Also, the Orioles posted a video of Trey Mancini mic'd up, which was just delightful. I watched the whole thing.
They used your favorite adjective in there.
Right. Was it not delightful?
It was.
It was. Yeah. So, it's just hanging out with the guys and goofing around and doing the little stretches and stuff, and he's taking batting practice and everything. So that was fun. Onto the action on the field. Young pitcher Dean Kramer absolutely lit up the Twins yesterday. 3 innings and 1 hit, no runs, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts. The Orioles did figure out how to lose, and figure out how to lose they did, because they gave up the go-ahead run in the bottom of the 7th inning of a 7-inning game with 1 out in the inning. And ordinarily, you would think the game is over, right? Like the home team scored the go-ahead run in the last inning, it's time to leave. But no, the Orioles had to pitch to 2 more batters.
What?
Because spring training is happening, so we have to get all 7 innings in.
If we need to get all 7 innings, why not just go ahead and do the whole 9 innings?
I don't know, man. Yeah, that's a thing that happened yesterday.
Oh, very goodness.
Very strange. And Chris Davis, who was day to day with a back injury, is now going to see a specialist. So you
guys get a longer reprieve with him out of the lineup.
Mm-hmm. Right. I feel like Chris Davis on the Orioles is only positive, right? Like if he's playing, he only helps us lose and helps us get a better draft pick. Or if he's playing poorly, I guess, helps us get a better draft pick.
That's what he does, though.
Yeah. But if by some miracle he plays well, then it's great. He's playing well. That's amazing.
But then couldn't you say that about literally any player?
Yeah.
Yes, this is what happens when you have 0 expectations for your team this year.
Right.
You get to live in this in between where it's like, if we're losing a lot, we kind of saw this coming, and we get a better pick. But if we start winning some games, we'll be like, hey, rebuild's going better than we thought.
Yeah. Like last year, going 25-35. Everybody's talking about, oh, the Orioles suck so bad. They've just been awful for a century and a half. Like, well, no, I think last year was a good year, right? We blew a bunch of saves and stuff. Like we were in a lot of games.
Cold salsa out there, just pitching like crap.
Yeah, just like a batting tee, just lay it in there. But the Orioles were in the playoff mix, right? Like we didn't even finish last in the division.
Now the Red Sox were terrible last year.
Hot take: I don't think we finished last in the division this year either.
I think that's a very realistic hot take. I think that the Orioles are better than people give them credit for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, let's see. And then outfield prospect Heston Kjerstad is going to join the alternate site in Bowie when that starts up. He had experienced an episode of myocarditis after he had COVID last year. That's why he wasn't at the alternate site at all last year. He missed some sort of off-season workout as well. So that's good to see he's sort of getting back in the baseball mix after, having a serious heart condition.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's it for the Orioles, at least currently.
The Yankees are up 1-0.
Oh, okay.
Cool. Who are they playing?
The Pirates.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. You said so. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So just a couple other notes from baseball. As many of you are probably aware, the state of Texas decided to say, "Hey, we're just opening everything up." A little questionable there, but that affects the Rangers as well. They will have full capacity crowds for their games this year, including I think they're only the home opener.
Just the home opener. Yeah.
I think they're gonna. Is it to 50% after that, or?
Yeah, that's what I read. Yeah.
Okay.
But still.
So what? Whatever. So they're gonna pack the arena for the home opener, and then they're just gonna say, "Hey, well, none of our fans are gonna show up anyway because we suck, and our manager's a whiny baby because Fernando Tatis hit a home run off of one of your pitchers." But hey. So that's the life of the Rangers. Meanwhile, the Toronto Blue Jays, like most Canadian teams during this pandemic, have a struggle to deal with because it's kind of hard to get across the border during a pandemic. So the Blue Jays will play their home games at their spring training complex in Dunedin, Florida? Dunedin, Florida.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good for them. So they get to.
I would have read it as Dunedin.
Hey, man, that's a Dunedin. Okay, whatever. But
Francisco.
This is what happens when they don't broadcast the games, right?
Yeah.
You don't know how to say the towns that they play.
Yes, I know how to say Sarasota, but whatever. So I guess that means that they're gonna have fans attend their
presumably, yeah.
How many Blue Jays fans are in Dunedin?
I'm sure there are plenty. If you're from Canada, you don't live there. You don't live in Canada all the time.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Like some people, yes. Some people are like, yeah, you know what? It's cold here in Canada. We'll just get our other house in Florida and stay there half the year. That's the thing that people do.
I'm sure that's a thing to some extent, but if there are a significant enough number of Blue Jays fans down there in Dunedin to want to attend a game?
I don't think it matters, frankly. At their spring training facility, it's a minor league ballpark. It's going to have reduced capacity. So, I'm sure there'd be plenty of Yankees fans there, and fans of other teams.
Well, I for one can't wait to see the Orioles play the Blue Jays in that stadium, because that's just going to be hilarious to watch regular season baseball.
Well, I think we could have seen it today, but no. It wasn't on.
Fair enough. So do we have any other baseball stuff, or is that going to do it? Because that's all we got on the sheet.
Professionals.
I think that's that.
Anyway.
Yeah, so we'll touch on some college baseball stuff later for Evan's Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, but we got some other things to get to real quick. Les Miles. Let's get this over with. Unceremoniously fired from Kansas. I think the AD was fired as well. Miles reportedly had multiple incidents of inappropriate behavior with female students while he was at LSU. And his firing was recommended in Baton Rouge as early as 2013. But obviously they decided to hold on to him because, of course, they did. Upon the story getting out, Miles was terminated from Kansas and is likely finished as a football coach at any level, I think. All right, Evan, what do you got?
This was known as he was recommended he be fired in 2013, and it's now 2021, and he's just now getting fired.
I believe it was 2013 when
these allegations were first made.
Yeah, where there was some level of investigation towards these allegations, and the investigator recommended that Les Miles be terminated. But
there should be no but. Why is there a but here?
Because college football doesn't care about these things. This is a situation where college football only fires you if they want to fire you, not if they feel like they should or it's morally the right thing to do. They fire you because they don't think you're good for their football program anymore. Clearly, LSU thought that Les Miles could still win them games. It was only after the umpteenth time getting his ass kicked by Nick Saban that they decided to move on. But, this is standard. This is par for the course. I mean,
disgusting.
We see this happen all the time. We see Jim Tressel got fired for the stupid tattoo story because Terrell Pryor and some other players sold, autographs and memorabilia for free tats. And they fired Jim Tressel, a Hall of Fame coach, because of that. But they didn't fire him because of that. They fired him because they wanted Urban Meyer. That's why they got rid of him. They didn't care that this happened. And then Urban Meyer protected a domestic abuser, Zach Smith, and they decisively didn't fire him. Why? Because they didn't want to. They fire the people that they want to because they only care about two things: winning games and making a whole bunch of money. And they felt that Les Miles, despite the baggage, despite the crap that he pulled, was still a positive asset because he might win them games and make them money.
So
if you're at Kansas, you don't need to worry about winning any games because Kansas never wins in football.
Exactly. That's why they didn't care about getting rid of him. He went 0-9 this year.
He didn't win at all? Yeah. They win one conference game.
Yeah,
Texas Tech or somebody.
Nope.
So,
oh my God.
I was reading some of the articles about all this, and I don't know if some of the information, I don't know if some of the information that was given by Jeff Long initially about the process of hiring Les Miles is just, false. And if that is, enlighten me because I haven't seen it. But based on Jeff Long's account of the hiring process when Kansas brought Les Miles in, I didn't necessarily see anything wrong on Kansas's side because it did seem like they did their due diligence. They asked him, were there any issues? They asked LSU, and they weren't given anything specific. And it's only been fairly recently that the specific allegations have come to light, which ultimately led to Les Miles being fired. And so the way that I kind of interpreted the story was Miles told them that there was nothing to be worried about, nothing has happened, but nobody would release the details of the investigation when it was discovered there was an investigation. And so the fact that Miles never even said, yes, there is an investigation, no, I didn't do any of this, but this is what I'm being accused of, that would have at least given me pause and caused me to think, okay, maybe these are lies. Maybe he's innocent. I don't know yet. The fact, though, that he covered it up, that he said nothing happened here, that would be what leads me to believe that these allegations are probably true. And initially I was like, okay, but why are they firing the athletic director then? Because it seems like he did his job. And then I found out that Jeff Long has a long-standing relationship with Les Miles. They were together back with like Michigan back in, I think it was the 80s that they were both at Michigan together. Like, you should probably have a pretty good sense of this guy. And, if you're bringing somebody in that you know personally, that you've had a relationship with, even if you didn't know any of this stuff, that's pretty problematic, and I could see why Kansas would go ahead and can him as well.
Well, the issue here, though, is that regardless of what you knew and whether or not you should have or not, Kansas football is a joke. And they managed to hire somebody that made them look worse than they already were, which should have been impossible. That should have been impossible. And yet, this guy found a way to do it, and I never thought that Les Miles was going to work at Kansas. Kansas isn't a football school. They've been a basketball school forever. I mean, they're the homecoming opponent for everybody in the Big 12. People get fired for losing to Kansas in the Big 12. Charlie Strong got fired from Texas because he lost to Kansas. They said, that's enough out of you. You're gone. But, this is just so embarrassing. And, at this point, maybe I'm a little too jaded, but I got no interest in giving the benefit of the doubt to any college football coach for anything, because there's a level of exploitation that's inherent in college football.
Yeah,
that
that's
the
true.
people that work in that industry have to inherently have some level of a sense of entitlement to be supposedly surrounded by attractive students and to desire certain things from them. There's a sense of entitlement attached to coaching college football. We've seen it with Dabo Swinney, maybe not to this extent.
No, but I was also thinking his name as well.
But this is something where if I hear something like this, I'm not inclined to trust the coach was clean, and I'm not going to sit there and accuse every single one of them of doing things like this, because that would be completely unfair.
Sure.
But I'm also not going to sit there and say, oh, there's a lot of allegations that you did some really creepy, inappropriate, bad things to students on campus. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you did that, because otherwise it wouldn't have come up.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if he had been forthright about it when he was during the hiring process, I might be willing to say, okay, well let's see how things play out. I'm not going to go out and just assume that you actually did it. The fact, though, that he didn't even disclose that there were some allegations that there was potential legal trouble. That would lead me to believe that he probably did do it.
Yeah, I'm led to believe that as well. For all the reasons you said, and I just remember thinking when Les Miles got fired from LSU, it seemed kind of unfair because, he usually had a good record over there, and they would just lose to Alabama every year, like everybody loses to Alabama every year. But just with all this stuff coming out, it's just like, ugh, this guy just doesn't seem like a good guy. Like, what? Just why would you do this? And then why would you hide it for 8 years?
It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. And then Kansas's program is such a mess. Remember when the Big 12 was about to break up, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago now?
Yeah. Yep.
Kansas was about to get left out of the shuffle because their football program is so terrible. They were about to be sent to some other Power 4 conference at the time. Like they were just going to get left out.
Well,
because it's football that pays the bills, and their football program is now
garbage.
Somehow even worse.
Yep. So Les Miles went 1-17 in conference play in his 2 years at LSU, Kansas. Yeah. So the product on the field was horrible anyway, which again is why he got fired. But the excuse will obviously be the horrible behavior that he deserved to get fired for, because God forbid we fire people for the right reasons. But that's the world we live in. So we'll move on to some more fun topics. The University of Texas has decided to retain their alma mater, the Eyes of Texas. We talked about this, I believe, last week. This was done as a result of some investigation or looking into the origins of the song. And the investigation acknowledged that the song was very likely to have been first performed at a minstrel show by white performers in blackface, which is the crux of why the players had a problem with this in the first place.
Yep.
So they acknowledged that was, in all likelihood, very true. And then they said, but the song itself had no racist intent, so, we're going to keep it. Come on.
There's so much to be annoyed with there, and the thing that kind of I ended up really latching on to when I saw the report was that use of the phrase racist intent. You don't have to be intentionally racist to be racist. I
look no further than your shirt, Corey.
Well,
right?
This is Washington football team.
Exactly. They changed the name.
But yeah, they changed it, and whether or not
be racist, but
whether or not the former name of the Washington football team was intended to be racist, it was racist. We've talked about this plenty on the show over the past few years leading up to when they finally did change the name. I could say something that is deemed racist, and I might not mean it to be racist. I certainly wouldn't mean it to be racist. I would never intentionally say anything that is hurtful to somebody. But that doesn't mean that what I said isn't hurtful, or that what I said can't be racist. Mm-hmm. It certainly can be. And if it is, I would certainly apologize. I would do my best to learn from it. I would, I hope that my life would not be turned upside down by it. But I also recognize that there are consequences for that. And if nothing else, I would need to learn from that in some way so that I don't do it again. Because that, if I truly don't intend to be hurtful, then if I do something that's hurtful, I won't do it again. Because if I keep doing it, then it's intentional. And so as far as I'm concerned, whether the song was intentionally racist, it was created with the intent to be racist or not, doesn't matter, because that people find it racist. People find it hurtful in some way. And so the fact that you continue to use it, you are now being intentionally hurtful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is absurd. If this song was made for this racist play, and then well, we don't mean it that way anymore. That's still unacceptable, right? Accidental racism is still racism.
Absolutely,
it doesn't matter to me if you don't mean it that way. It's interpreted offensively. So, there's no excuse for this. And then, this investigation.
Yeah, who's running it?
Yeah, it feels it gives me a kind of a phony baloney vibe. If you investigate yourself, you're obviously biased toward yourself. If everybody's the hero of their own narrative, then they'd be like, oh, well, we found no wrongdoing here because we looked at it and, we're perfect. And then also I feel like it's not up to white people to decide what's racist and what's not. Like that, I mean, it's if the players feel like this song is racist and the players are overwhelmingly black, then maybe you should listen to them about this instead of just be like, y'all just shut up and play football. We're going to deal with the songs because they're so important around here.
Yeah, it's a lot of these people act like black people just go around making stuff up and calling it racist. It's like, no, if they're saying something's racist,
it probably is.
It's racist. Yeah, and the thing is, we're not exactly talking about Beethoven's Fifth here, okay? This is a song that has the same melody of I've Been Working on the Railroad. They literally just took that melody because it's easy enough for people to learn it if it's that song and just changed the lyrics. It's like they took a little kid's song and turned it into their alma mater. You can come up with something better than that. You don't have to be so attached. You're attached to it for the sake of being attached. And that's pathetic. That's what bothers me the most. Like, you don't even have a good song. It's like the obsession with the national anthem. It's like, our national anthem ain't even that good. Like, Canada's is better than ours.
It really is.
And yet people are just like, oh my God, the national anthem. It's like, you just like this because this is what you know. Okay? And people who can't accept the fact that some of the stuff ain't that great, pretty sad. And that's what this is to me. This is just an inability to accept the fact that something that you like ain't really that great and doesn't mean what you think it means.
Yeah. And I do want to also make the point that, like, it seems like there's a lot of stuff that is surprisingly having racist backstory and unintentional racism and whatnot. Like, it just seems like everywhere we turn, there's one thing or another that's coming up with a racist history. Like, it makes you think there sure is a lot of stuff in this country that has a racist history.
John Oliver kind of said that this past week when he said, like, it's almost like you can point to literally anything in this country and ask how is that racist and get a specific historical answer.
Exactly. So there's so much stuff everywhere you look. Oh, that's racist. That's racist. That's racist. Yes. Clearly, we know this. So maybe somebody should do something about it.
Doctor, we notice.
Yeah, Doctor, we notice. Exactly.
All right, so we'll move on to some more pleasant topics, at least for Evan. Georgia Tech men's basketball has had a surprisingly good season. They're the number 4 seed in the ACC tournament. Now, granted, the ACC wasn't very good this year, but
that don't matter. I don't care.
long hair, don't care. Fair enough. So 4 seed in the tournament. You said they're playing the 13 seed Clemson.
13 seed Miami because Miami
beat Clemson. Right, gotcha. Yeah. So how you feeling, Evan? Feeling good?
I feel great. This is amazing. They haven't been to the NCAA tournament since 2010, which was my sophomore year. A lot of stuff has happened in the world in the 11 years since then. So the fact that they got the number 4 seed in the tournament and got a double bye, I'm like, that's incredible. A double bye. Usually we're the team that's playing on the first day, right? It's Georgia Tech and Boston College on Tuesday at 2:30. Nobody's watching that. The good teams haven't even arrived at the tournament site yet, and we're already going home.
Now, do you think you guys are a lock for the NCAA tournament at this point, or could you guys still miss it if you were to lose to Miami?
I don't want to jinx that at all.
Eric, what do you think?
I think Georgia Tech's pretty safely in at this point. I mean, they're the 4 seed in the ACC. I know the ACC was down this year, but I'd be stunned if they only took 3 teams from that conference. I think that they're pretty safe, although I also expect them to beat Miami because Miami's pretty bad.
Well, what if a team that's seeded outside the top 4 won the ACC tournament and gets an automatic bid?
Then that would be a problem.
That would be a problem then, yeah. But even so, I still think Georgia Tech is safely in enough.
Okay.
I think that from what I've seen, I'll have to double check, but when you look at like Joe Lunardi's, bubble teams, I don't think Georgia Tech's in like the last four in or anything like that. So they've got, a little bit of breathing room. I don't think that losing one game is going to torpedo their tournament chances or put them in jeopardy. Actually, now that I'm looking,
Jeez.
Yeah, last four in are Michigan State, Louisville, Georgia Tech, and VCU.
Ooh.
So, tough scene. So maybe you guys do need to win. I don't know.
Oh, goodness.
But what I do know is that Maryland is probably safely in despite their late season swoon, even if they end up having to go to the first four in – usually it's in Dayton. I don't know if they're doing that this year, but we'll see what's going to happen there. But, hey, some of your boys got some individual accolades, Evan. Moses Wright.
ACC Player of the Year by the AP, which is amazing. I mean, this is a historic basketball conference, despite being down this year, as you said. I think that's irrelevant, but, maybe it's just as good as before. It's just the teams that were used to being good suddenly suck. Looking at you, Duke, number 10 seed or something.
Yeah, Duke's toast.
Y'all were some garbage this year.
Yes, they were.
It was
you
quite lost
fun.
to Georgia Tech last week. Coach K should be fired for that. You can't lose to Georgia Tech. I'm sorry. You can't. You gotta go.
Coach K will never be fired.
Yeah, that
never
was
ever.
But yeah, ACC Player of the Year. I think that's incredible. So
that's an awesome accomplishment.
Something right.
Yeah, it's like it was exciting. I remember when Maryland had Gravis Vasquez won ACC Player of the Year back in 2010. It's exciting when your best guy gets an award like that. That's a big deal. So, again, regardless of whether or not the conference is down or whatever, there's still good teams in the ACC. Virginia and Florida State are very good teams, and you would have thought that the Player of the Year would have been one of those players on those teams. But the fact that Georgia Tech had a guy that was better than all those guys speaks to how good Moses Wright was this year. So he deserves a lot of credit.
Virginia kicks our butt every time. Just without questions, automatic. We're going to lose by 25.
Well, they're a top-flight program in basketball, so...
One time we only scored 27 points the whole game against them.
Yeah, they do that to people. They suffocate you. So moving on from Georgia Tech basketball to Georgia Tech baseball, who is supposed to be good and is.
Yeah, I think we took 2 out of 3 against Louisville, who was ranked number 1 this past weekend. They sold out all the tickets already for everybody. They're doing reduced capacity. So they sold out the whole season in terms of season tickets. So I haven't been to any games. But yeah, we're ranked number 7 now. After being unranked, we've shot all the way up the rankings. So it's exciting stuff. Hopefully they continue their winning ways. And we got to work on beating the other schools that are sort of in this area of the country. So those are the UGAs and the North Carolinas and the Auburns, those type of schools. We need to start beating them more often.
Sounds to me like we need to get Matt Stone and Trey Parker back together for a basketball too.
I don't know what that is.
It was a movie back in the late 90s, but now that Georgia Tech is good at both basketball and baseball at the same time, do a reboot.
Okay. So to all our listeners out there, that whooshing sound you heard was that reference going right over my head. So.
I understood the reference. I just refused to acknowledge it. So moving on. So we'll get to the pro football stuff. We'll get to Dak Prescott's deal in a little bit. But first, let's talk a little bit about Ron Rivera. He had a response to some of the stuff that Alex Smith said to GQ regarding the team and how they felt about him and his effort to return to the field. I actually haven't seen this. I imagine Corey put this in here. So, Corey, what's this all about?
Yeah, so you guys will remember the comments that Alex Smith made in a GQ interview where he talked about how the team didn't want him. They were, whether it was worried about him getting hurt again or this or that, he said they didn't want me. And so Ron Rivera, I guess, sat down with Alex Smith and talked to him about it. And during the conversation, he told Alex Smith basically, he was right, not necessarily in everything, not that they didn't want him in the building, but he wasn't really part of their plans. He didn't really want to put him out on the field, and a big part of that was because Rivera didn't want to be the guy that puts him back out there and then have him get hurt again, which
makes sense.
On one hand, as the football coach, you kind of have to come to terms with the reality that any one of your players could suffer a catastrophic injury at any time. We don't see life-threatening injuries all the time, but we do see them, if not every year, then every other year you'll see one. We saw, Ryan Shazier. We saw the Bills player back in the day. I think it was like Trent something maybe. I don't remember his name anymore, but there was a Bills player who got really hurt on a kick or a punt return where he had a spinal injury. You see these things from time to time, and you have to come to terms with the fact that one of your players could suffer one of those injuries. But there is also something to be said for having a guy coming back from one of those injuries being nervous for him. So I thought that I just thought that was interesting.
I feel like there would have been more nervousness if Ryan Shazier tried to play football again. People would be a lot more concerned about his well-being than the average football player, because it just feels like you just went through this. It could easily happen again. But, I always felt that, the feelings towards Alex Smith were never like deeply negative. It was always more concern about his well-being than him supposedly throwing a monkey wrench in the team's program, because the team didn't have any idea what the hell they were going to do at quarterback anyway. Like, their idea of the solution last year seemed to be Kyle Allen, and that's not a solution. So I think that, obviously I have tremendous respect for Alex Smith and what he's done. And I'm not going to say that he's wrong for feeling the way he felt, but it's just, there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect with, what he thinks or what he perceives happen and what other people perceive. But that's okay. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't seem like he's not pissed off or anything like that. It doesn't seem like there's any bad blood. And so that's what's most important.
I don't fault the team for, not having Alex Smith as a part of their plans at quarterback this season. Like, I don't feel like it's wise to count on the guy who's not getting any younger, who's also coming off of a catastrophic injury and an infection that almost took his life. Like, I don't. If you're preparing for the football season, I wouldn't be counting on that guy to be playing for you. And I think that's really all there is to it. I don't get the sense that there's, any malice or bad intent here. Like, we just didn't want Alex anymore because we don't like him. Like, I don't feel like there's any of that going on. Like, we have to be honest with the facts. Like, you had a horrible injury, and all the people who've had this injury never played again. So, we don't expect you to play again, but if you do, then great. But we're just not counting on it, and I think it's fine to say that.
So one of the interesting, I don't know what that sound was, but one of the interesting things about the decision to release Alex Smith earlier this week, if Washington had kept him and released him after June 1st, I believe they would have saved an additional $6 or $7 million on the cap. Now, they would have had to carry his like $23 million cap number up until that time, but I believe they would have actually saved more money against a reduced cap. The NFL is reducing its salary cap by about $15 million, which is roughly 8% compared to last year. They just announced that number either earlier today or yesterday. So today. So it would have made more financial sense, I believe, to have designated him as a post-June 1st cut, but he requested the release and Washington granted it, and it does save them a bit, like $14 million against the cap. I thought that was interesting. I appreciate Washington being willing to potentially eat that increased expense to allow Alex Smith a chance to go through all of free agency and try and find a landing spot, because he clearly seems to want to play again. But the responses that Rivera had and gave to the media, and the what it sounds like was the tone of the conversation he had with Alex Smith, I think just kind of confirms that the GQ article really wasn't that big of a deal. Like, this was not Alex Smith airing a whole bunch of grievances about the Washington football team. It was really just expressed like, this is the reality of the situation. I wasn't a part of their plans because they didn't expect for me to be able to come back. When I did come back, it kind of threw a little bit of a wrench in plans because I was now eating up a roster spot. And when I did finally get on the field, I kind of had to fight for that chance. All of which, was probably true, but also was 100% understandable coming from the organization's perspective and from Ron Rivera's perspective. So it was nice to kind of get a sense of how that conversation went and to know that, like, it did go well. It wasn't some anger or significant frustration, I don't think, on Smith's part, beyond maybe being frustrated that he's not part of the franchise's long-term plans going forward.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I never got the feeling, like you said, Corey, that there was any real airing of grievances. It just felt like he was being honest about what happened, and I not once thought, wow, Alex Smith really hates the Washington football franchise.
We didn't, but there were a lot of other pundits out there who seemed to be making more of it than was really there. Like, I think even the sports junkies were kind of making this into a little bit more than it was.
That's easy to do, though, when Dan Snyder owns the team. There's a quick reaction to not give him the benefit of the doubt, which is usually fair, but in this case, it just didn't feel like that was the way things were going to me. But
yeah, of course, I hate to criticize the sports junkies. Half of them are DeMatha guys like we are, but I did think that they kind of over boogied a little bit on some of the reactions to that.
That's fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
We keep it 100 on this show. We want to criticize somebody, we will.
Yeah,
I think that's fine.
It's very mild criticism at best, so I wouldn't get too worried about it. So let's get to the big news of the week. Dakota Prescott got paid. 4-year extension worth $160 million.
I think he's getting like $75 million of that in the first year.
Yep, deal includes $126 million in guarantees, and he's getting $75 million up front. What a legend!
Yes, get your money up front.
This is also great for him because it positions him to do what he seemingly wanted to do, and what was the hang-up for the Cowboys is it puts him in position to get paid again, because he will be a free agent at age 31, which is prime quarterbacking years. And I believe that the deal was sort of like the one that Tom Brady signed in his last years with the Patriots, where they could not franchise tag him at the conclusion of his deal. So he's doesn't have to worry about that happening. So assuming that he's able to play at a high level and stay healthy, when he hits free agency again in 4 years, he's going to get paid again. And it's probably going to be the Cowboys more. Yep.
Yeah, by that time, he might be making $50 million a year instead of $40, for all we know.
Right. That was the concern that seemingly was the issue for Jerry and the Cowboys over this elongated effort to get this deal done, was not so much about the money, but the years. Because Jerry wanted him to sign a longer-term deal so that he wouldn't come back in 4 years to get even more of his money. So, but nevertheless, they got the deal done. Happy for Dak. He's one of the class dudes in the NFL. He's been the face of the Dallas Cowboys, which is, we talk about the Cowboys more than most teams other than the local ones, because they're the ones that are always in the news. They're the big brand of the NFL, and every single thing that they do seems to be newsworthy. So the guy that's the franchise quarterback, who is actually really good, he deserves a lot of props for being able to handle that. I mean, Dak is a really good quarterback, and I think people have kind of put him in a position where they try to talk about him like he's Kirk Cousins. And that's crap. Dak Prescott's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL.
He's so much better than Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not even close.
I mean,
there are
than what happened to the Cowboys after Dak got injured.
Yep.
Right.
There are arguments.
Clearly the best team in that division. Dak goes out, and then they're just crap like the other 3 teams in that division.
Yeah, I mean, he kept them afloat because their defense was trash. Their defense was awful.
Because Ezekiel Elliott had fumbleitis too.
Oh my God, Ezekiel Elliott, hold the ball, man.
I think that there are arguments that can be made for why Kirk Cousins could be considered a top 10 quarterback or not. But Dak Prescott is a top 5 quarterback. Like, we're not like
only 10 quarterbacks.
There is no.
Wait. We have to stop. We have to stop for a second. We're gonna need a quick 20. There's arguments to be made that Kirk Cousins is a top 10 quarterback in the league. Which league is this? What am I missing?
He's had multiple years as a pro where he was top 5 in all of the most important advanced stats.
Okay, but the tape though must be deceiving me.
And that is what bumps him out of the top 5 into a fringe top 10. That's what I'm saying. There's an argument to be made. I'm not saying that he is a shoo-in top 10 quarterback, but there is an argument. He's in that fringe area. Dak Prescott is not fringe. He's not even fringe top 5 as far as I'm concerned. He is top 5. I cannot, off the top of my head, name 5 quarterbacks that I would say, yeah, he's better than Dak.
Eric's making a lot of faces for those of you not watching on our live stream that doesn't have video.
I don't even know how to put into words like how happy I am for Dak. Now, part of me was really hoping that Dak would end up in the burgundy and gold this offseason.
We know that's not going to happen. I mean, come on.
Some of this stuff that his brother was saying on Twitter seemed to leave that specific possibility open.
That was 100% not going to happen.
And that may be true, but, a fan can hope. So yes, I was kind of hoping that might happen. But I also didn't expect it to happen. And regardless, I am a Dak Prescott fan, and I am really happy for him getting paid, getting this deal with a team that I think that ultimately he wanted to be in Dallas. I think that he really did want to stay in Dallas. The money just had to be right. And so I'm glad the money was right for him to be able to do that. And to, as Eric said, get another opportunity for another payday in 4 years.
And another easy division championship if he stays healthy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing at this point is just, now he can turn his attention fully to recovering. That was a really bad injury, but by all accounts, it appears he avoided any severe ligament damage that would potentially derail a comeback. I would imagine if that wasn't the case, Dallas probably would not have been so keen to pay him $40 million a year, much less $75 million in the first year. But hopefully he comes back strong and can put together another really good year and actually have it sustained through the entire season.
Who's the second best quarterback in the NFC East? Who's that guy?
Taylor Heineke.
Is it him?
I think it is.
You could say it's him and not be wrong because you've got 2 very unproven guys and you've got one guy who's just crap in Daniel Jones. So, might as well go with one of the unproven guys. Yeah. But I'm going to have to dispute the top 5 status there because Brady, Rodgers, Mahomes, Watson, Wilson, we're done. He's not in the top 5. So, that's a wrap. Yeah, it is. It's a wrap. Like it is. But anyway, but he is definitely top 10, which means he's deserving to get paid, and that's what you do with franchise quarterbacks because that's what he is. So I think that the Cowboys had no choice here. They understand it's not about. People love to say stuff like, "Well, I don't know if he's worth $40 million a year, maybe $35." I'm like, it's not your choice. Your choice
your
is
money.
Your choice is either you pay him $40 million or you get a crappy quarterback and suck. Those are your options.
Is
You have
Andy
to
Dalton
decide.
still on the roster?
Don't know, because again, it's not like you can just say, "Hey, this guy's not worth 40. Let me go get a $40 million quarterback," because those guys don't exist because they're already being paid by somebody else. People don't let their $40 million quarterbacks get to free agency. In fact, they don't even trade them when they beg for it, because seemingly the Texans have zero interest in trading Deshaun Watson. You know why? Because he's really good and they don't want to get rid of him. So, it kind of goes without saying, these guys don't really grow on trees here. So they had no choice here. And, I personally think Dak's probably 7th or 8th best quarterback in the league. Maybe you could put him 6th. I don't know. But the fact that he's in that range means he's definitely good enough to lead this team deep into the playoffs if the team is built well around him, if the coaching's right, and if they have a little bit of luck, which is the best that you can hope for, because you can't expect to get Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is a once-in-a-generation quarterback, and he isn't on your team. Sorry, you missed the boat. Somebody else got him, so you're going to have to settle for this other guy, who, by the way, is a stud. So I'm happy for him. I know that Dan Orlovsky was in shambles. He had to put literal egg on his face, which was an excellent bit.
That was delightful.
Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed that. But again, I know that Dak's going to come back for more later on, and I hope he's able to do so by staying healthy, like Corey said, and being able to play at a high level. Because, people worry about, overpaying the quarterback. He's not one of those guys. He's not Carson Wentz or Jared Goff. He is legit. He's proven himself over the last couple of years, because the Cowboys, his rookie year, the Cowboys' offensive line was amazing. Des Bryant was still really good, and they had Ezekiel Elliott before he decided that he sucks. So, at that point, it was fair to say, hey, I don't know if this guy can get it done. Last 2 years, the line's been injured and banged up, and he's played great when he's been on the field. So he definitely earned his money here.
Oh, yeah. If you have a franchise quarterback in your building, you don't let him go, right?
No.
You moved. You may have moved heaven and earth to get him in there. You don't just let him leave for nothing. And you certainly don't send him away on purpose. Like you said, those guys don't grow on trees. So the Cowboys, they had no leverage here, right? They have to give Dak a blank check.
Oh, yeah.
Basically.
No doubt. And
it's if Dak wants $100 million a year, Jerry Jones is like, here you go. Yeah, that's the price of doing business. That's what good quarterbacks cost. Lamar Jackson's new deal is coming up at some point in the next year or two, or maybe this summer. I have no idea. But I'm sure he's going to get a jaw-dropping amount of money. People are like, oh well, that's too much money. We should have gotten rid of him and brought in who, right?
It's the best quarterback you've ever had.
Right, yeah.
The Ravens have been in Baltimore since, 1996?
Yes.
So it's 25 seasons, and this is easily the best guy you've ever had. And you're just going to be like, yeah, we don't want to pay him an extra $3 million a year. Come on.
Yeah, or like in 2013, after our quarterback wins the Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP, people are like, well, he wants too much money. We have to get rid of him. Like, what are you doing? That's foolishness.
This is a situation where you got to be this tall to ride the ride, and you can't compete with the big boys consistently without one of the better quarterbacks in the league. So you're sure as hell not going to let him go because you were pinching pennies. That's absurd.
Yeah. Ask the Bears what it's like not to have a good quarterback.
Well, the Bears are in the opposite situation, because the post-Sid Luckman Bears have had terrible quarterback after terrible quarterback. So they see somebody like Carson Wentz and they say, well, he'd be the best quarterback we've had since Sid Luckman. I'm like, so? He's still not good. That doesn't mean anything. They did the same thing with Jay. They did the same thing with Rice Grossman for a period of time. We're like, this is the best guy we've had since X, Y, or Z. I'm like, yeah, because you guys have never had a good quarterback since
Sid Luckman, who last played for the Bears in 1950.
Yes, it's been a long, long time.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh jeez. Yeah, the Bears, they've basically never had a good quarterback. So feel like the Bears would be the type of team that if they accidentally fell into a good quarterback when he reached free agency, they would let him leave. They wouldn't they wouldn't appreciate him.
So one final note about Dak's deal. It is definitely backloaded as far as cap hits go, which is the norm for these things. It's actually only a $26 million cap hit for this coming season, which makes it about 12.3% of the cap, which is a totally manageable number. So they're definitely in win-now mode, given the fact that they've got a lot of offensive talent. They seemingly hope that their coaching situation is going to work out. That remains to be seen with Mike McCarthy. But they are absolutely the favorite to win the NFC East, which, I mean,
they need to work on the defense a little bit, but if they can address some of those issues, this is a dangerous team.
Absolutely. And, they're going to be a playoff team in all likelihood, assuming Dak stays healthy, because, like we said, there's nobody else in the division that can match them at the quarterback position.
That's competent.
Yeah, like the team is definitely not there yet, and it doesn't seem like they're going to get there this year.
Despite being defending champs of the division.
Yeah. The Giants are going to continue to spin their wheels with Danny Dimes and Jalen Hurts. Still a mystery, but I'd be surprised if he's ready to hang with Dak Prescott next year.
And the Eagles' new coach, we don't know if he's any good, right? He could be Jim Tom Sula 2.0 or something.
He reminded me a little bit. I mean, the only thing he didn't do was fart in the press conference. My goodness.
Yeah. We don't know about this guy. What I don't even remember his name. Who's the Eagles coach now?
Nick Sirianni.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
He was wigging out during his press conference, just sounding completely overwhelmed. Not exactly a good first impression.
We're going to make our offense super simple. Not simple enough for them to know what we're doing, but simple enough that we can learn it and execute. What are you even talking about?
It sounded like a Peyton Manning SNL sketch.
It did. It really did.
He's like, we don't know what we're doing, but they don't know what we're doing either.
Yeah. Just throw the ball as hard as you can right at some kid's head and make him go sit in the porta potty for 10 minutes.
I don't even want to look at you.
Yeah.
Yankees are at 5-0.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Good for them.
Are the Cowboys more of a lock to win their division than the Chiefs are?
Nah, I wouldn't say so, because the Cowboys are such a dysfunctional mess that.
But are they less of a dysfunctional mess than the other three dysfunctional messes in the division?
See, but that's
it's like running from a bear. You don't need to be the fastest person in the world. You just need to be faster than the other people.
The Chiefs are definitely more of a lock to win their division. And it's not just because, the thing is, the Eagles have talent on their roster. I have no idea what their new coach is going to do, but they do have talent there. They could beat the Cowboys. Washington has quite a bit of talent on their roster, and if Heineke ends up actually being good, or Washington brings in a quarterback who's actually good, their defense is good enough that they'll be in every game, and the offense can be good enough to win enough of those games to potentially compete with the Cowboys for the division title. In the AFC West, I don't see that really from the Broncos. I don't particularly see it from the Raiders. The Raiders almost have like a Jets in the AFC West feel, where they're built to compete with the Chiefs head-to-head, but not on a season-long, where you can actually beat them as far as their record to win the division at the end of the year.
That is a really good point. I like that.
And the Chargers, I don't know what to.
That's the best way to describe the Chargers.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about them. I love their quarterback situation right now because Justin Herbert really impressed me this year. But outside of that, who freaking knows? And I'm not going to take a who knows kind of team and say, oh yeah, they have as much of a chance of somehow beating the Chiefs as the Washington football team or the Eagles have of beating the Cowboys.
Yeah, last year Washington won 7-9, but they had just awful quarterbacks. If Heineke can be even serviceable, they're going to be a competitive team this year. So that could be something to consider as well. I think that among the teams that are competing relative to the favorites, I think the gap between Washington and Dallas is a little bit closer than any team versus the Chiefs.
I think it's a lot of it closer, but yes.
I'm gonna say a little bit because still we got Taylor Heineke as the quarterback. Let's keep it in perspective. But either way, I expect both teams to win the division. But we'll see what happens. So before we get out of here today, I just want to hit on a couple of things that we got coming up. As we know, Selection Sunday is coming up this weekend, which means the NCAA tournament starts next Thursday. At least the 64-team bracket does. So we'll be discussing that next week on the pod, but we'll also have a bracket challenge for anybody who wants to participate. We'll put something up on our Facebook and Twitter to set you guys up with a link so that you can join us if you want to take our cookies in this bracket challenge and whoop our ass, which you probably will. 100% welcome to join, and we're looking forward to it. We also have NFL free agency starting up next week at 4 o'clock, so just a couple of hours before we're scheduled to record. So you can tune in to hear us react probably in real time to a lot of the latest signings and other things going on in the league. That's going to be an exciting, probably a little bit of a frantic show. So, we'll see what happens there. Looking forward to it. We'll also have the latest news, like I said earlier, about the NBA, the trade deadline approaches, and we'll continue updating you on everything Major League Baseball. It's a pretty exciting time these next few weeks. We haven't had that in the last year or so. We've had plenty of gaps in the sports coverage, but it seems like it's all coming together, and we're going to have it all here on the Sportsballers podcast for you. So definitely tune in for that. You guys have any shout-outs? Anybody you want to say thank you to or say hi to?
No, I don't have any this week.
If anybody is missing football, check out my YouTube channel. It's just my name, Corey Puffett. You can see my condensed game footage for my Washington football team franchise in Madden 21. I've been recording the games and then cutting it down into some condensed game film and then adding my own commentary over top of it. The Week 6 game against the Giants went up on Monday, and my Week 7 game against the Carolina Panthers is going up tomorrow. And I'm already working on my Week 8 game, which is a rematch against the Giants, and that will go up next Monday. So if you miss football and you want to check out some of that and also see a few occasional Madden glitches that pop up in the game, I do show some of those, and those sometimes are pretty funny. So check out that on YouTube. We've been posting the links on our Twitter and Facebook pages as well.
When you're talking, do you have the live commentary? Like, are you?
No, so when I actually turned off the actual commentary for the game, so I'm not listening to the commentators during the game at all. That way, when I'm putting it up, I can still have the crowd noise and like the field sounds and the PA announcers sounds, but then my voice is not competing with the actual play-by-play commentary.
Okay, but do you have your headset on and like you screaming ah?
No, so I don't record my audio while I'm playing the game. So I'll be talking like as I'm playing, but it won't record that. I'm doing my commentary after the fact, because otherwise it would have me like cutting in and out of sentences, like mid-sentence in the condensed game footage. So I break it down, and then I have like a note sheet where I'm jotting down like what happened on the play so I can keep track of what's about to happen. And then I record my own kind of condensed game play-by-play, if you will, after I've already edited the video itself.
Okay.
So the audio is the last step.
Romo impression. Here we go, Jim.
Gee, I don't know, Jim.
Tony!
Stick one of those in there.
But yeah, I mean, I've been enjoying it. It is time consuming, so I don't know if I'm going to do it beyond this one season. After that, I might just kind of stream my games as I play them, so I can get through the seasons a little bit quicker. But I've been having fun with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sounds awesome.
No Woj bombs. While we've been recording.
No, I did see an article about a sports gambler pleading guilty to threatening Tampa Bay Rays players.
No,
players.
Yes.
Okay, not the manager for pulling the best pitcher in the World
players.
Series. Well, he's
so
dealing.
Might have to read that, and if that actually turns out to be something substantial, maybe we'll talk about it next week.
I still haven't wrapped my mind around that. Like, what? You're taking him out now?
It was a tough one to swallow for sure. That was brutal.
Yes.
So that'll do it for today's show. Be sure to check us out on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Sportsballers18 for info on our latest episodes, blog posts, and other activities. Like I said earlier, we're going to have a bracket challenge going, so I'm sure we'll include a link on there as we get ready to kick off the NCAA tournament next week. You can also email us questions or feedback at thesportsballers@gmail.com. You can also follow us individually. Corey is at Corey Puffett. Evan is at Evan_Ash13. And I am at Quagmire67. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was episode 134 of the Sports Ballers podcast. And we will talk to you guys next week. Take it easy.